episode 8, Snakes on a Plane, or in Barcelona, or in the hot tub, as we find out. And it's your boy Icon with a Netflix original series television review for you. And before we get started, hit the notification bell, like and subscribe, and let's get started with some Cobra Kai. So now, this is a filler episode, but there are two things that happened that made it all worth it, because it wasn't your typical filler episode. So let's get rid of the fluff, and then let's talk about the cool shit. Sam was on the beach cheating on her boyfriend because Miguel and Johnny, they ended up having to fly back to California because his mom was having issues with her pregnancy. They were on the flight. Miguel ended up cursing out Johnny on the flight because he was like, oh, you make everything a big deal, because he was fighting with some drunk dude on the plane. He was like, you make everything a problem, and you're going to make something a problem when we get to the hospital. And then he was like, you've been disregarding me the entire time we were here. You're getting on my nerves, and I'm going to first class. So Johnny ends up going to first class to talk to him. And then he said that, he wasn't choosing, he said he wasn't disregarding him, but he said, but because you were kicking ass and killing it out there, and Robbie was struggling, I didn't think you needed the encouragement that Robbie did, because Robbie was one who was actually having the problem. And he was like, yes, I'm scared to death about your mom, but I can't think about the fear. He said, we got to push through and we got to make it happen. So while he's on the plane crying over his mama, Sam's on the beach cheating on him because she started talking to the next dude. And to her credit, nothing happened. She didn't kiss him or anything, but they were talking like the entire night, because the guy from, what was it, the Silver Dragon, the guy from like the Silver Dragon Clue, like the really big guy, the one that doesn't move, like the immovable force. He was the one that she saw getting abused by Sensei Wolf. So when she saw him and recognized him, she was just like, hey, she tried to like talk to him as a human being. And then she was like, like there are other ways to go about karate aside from getting your ass beat. And then he was just like, no, this is the only way. So the two of them started talking in an effort for her to befriend him. He took it the wrong way. He tried to kiss her. She was like, I have a boyfriend. You should have said that from the beginning. And then he felt some kind of way. Then he like ran off like a bitch. So now back on the plane, drunk guy that was on the plane bothering everybody the entire time, Miguel punched him in the face. They get to the hospital. His mother's okay. The pregnancy's fine and she's going to be okay. Because he flew back to California and they didn't know the condition that Carmen was going to be in, Johnny told LaRusso's wife, he said, listen, if things don't go well, I need you to go to Kenny Payne's house and bring Kenny to Barcelona, because he's going to have to replace Miguel in the Sekai Taikai. So then the hot wife, she goes down to go talk to Kenny. They're at the hospital. Carmen's okay. There were no real big issues with the pregnancy. And then Carmen tells Miguel and tells Johnny, she said, listen, there's nothing for you to do here. Go back to Barcelona and win this whole goddamn thing, and don't come back unless you're a champion. Both of them say yes, and now they get back on the plane. So now, while LaRusso's wife is talking to Kenny, she's trying to get him, to go to Barcelona. He was like, yo, fuck Miyagi-Do. He said, I ain't doing none of that shit. He's like, your son made my life a living hell. He put laxative in my drink, and now I'm a meme on social media. She goes and confronts her son about it. He was like, Ma, it wasn't me, which is true. He's like, it wasn't me. And then she drags him back to the house. She tells him to apologize to Kenny. He apologizes, but he's like, I'm sorry for apparently doing something that I didn't do. The two of them get into a fight on the porch. The mom curses both of them out. And then the son gets mad and walks away. And now the mom, she's sitting on the porch talking to Kenny. And then she got through to him eventually. She told him, she was like, like Miyagi-Do is your family. Like you were like a kid who was getting bullied and picked on. And now you rose to become like this badass fighter. And I'm going to speak on that for a second, because for the love of God, when we first met Kenny, he was like 4 feet tall. He had like a squeaky girly voice, and he was the embodiment of somebody that you would get that, that should be picked on, like someone that you would think would be picked on. Like if there was like a poster child for kids who get picked on, that would have been Kenny Payne. How time has gone by, because when she went to his house to ask him to come to Barcelona and she rang his doorbell, he went from, hey, stop picking on me, man, like I'm Kenny Payne. He opened the door like, yo, what up, Miss LaRusso? And I was like, oh, shit. I was like, who's this kid? He looked like he just came out of prison. And like his voice, like he's like 6'10", and like his voice is all deep. He's like brolic is all. I was like, goddamn. So they end up talking, and then after they end up talking, the son comes back. He apologizes to Kenny, not for the laxative thing, because he said he didn't do it, but he said that the beef between us started with me from Jump Street. And he said, I need to end this once and for all. So he ends up taking laxative, and he's like, I'm going to shit my own pants with the hopes that you and I can be even. At that moment, Devin called, because Devin was feeling guilty because earlier Hawk and Dimitri, they were at a Mexican restaurant. This girl asked Hawk to dance. He said, no, I have a girlfriend. Demetrius said yes, despite the fact that he had a girlfriend. It's just a dance. It wasn't that serious. But then he called his girl, the Hawk called his girlfriend to see what she was up to. And then she was like, oh, it sounds like you're at a party. And he was like, oh, yeah, we're at a restaurant. See, he was showing her like the footage of the restaurant. And then she saw Dimitri dancing with the next chick. Dimitri's girlfriend was actually with her when that happened. She saw the footage and then she called Dimitri and broke up with him. So the two of them got into an argument, and he was like, bro, you were the one that was dancing with the next chick when you got a girlfriend, so don't get mad at me. And then he was just like, he looked at Devin, he said, that's the problem. People don't know how to take accountability for their actions. And then she felt bad, and then she called Kenny. And then she was like, Kenny, I was the one that put the laxative in your drink. I'm so sorry. He was like, what? And then he was just like, yo, I'm coming to Barcelona. He was like, yo, but don't do anything. He said, we'll talk about this when I get there. And then as soon as he turned around to tell LaRusso's son, don't, like, he doesn't have to do the laxative thing because, like, Devin had just confessed to being the one who did it. He had already drank it, and he was like, ah, shit, literally. So the two of them made up. Now they're okay, and Kenny's on his way to Barcelona. Robbie was all devastated and broken up over the fact that him and his girlfriend aren't talking. And then while they were there, Sahara, she was jealous of Tori the entire time because a lot of the boys were like, oh, Tori's a badass and she's hot. And Sahara doesn't like the fact that all the attention isn't on her. So she tried to like do things like discredit Tori. Tori basically like gave her the finger. Chen, the kid who's with Cobra Kai, like the crazy one, the bad, I think his name is like Chen or whatever. I was calling him Crow. I don't know why I was calling him Crow, probably because of his hair. But he ended up, he was playing the field too because he knew that Robbie was looking over at him and Tori. So he was putting his arm around Tori, whispering. Tori was pushing him away. She was just like, yo, like, what are you doing? Like, don't touch me. But to Robbie, it looked like the two of them was together. And then when Tori stormed out of the restaurant, he walked over to Robbie and he was like, don't worry, I will keep her very warm tonight. So now Robbie's all upset. He's emotional and he's vulnerable. Sahara sees that. She runs up on him. Robbie ended up getting drunk and the two of them went back to her room. And I don't know if they did the deed or I'm going to assume they did not do the deed and Robbie just passed out in her bedroom. But when Robbie left her bedroom, all hungover and like drunk, Tori was getting off the elevator, and then when she got off the elevator, Sahara kissed Robbie in front of Tori. So now Tori's upset, Robbie's upset, like everybody's emotionally scarred over this entire situation. Now on to the good shit. So now on to the good shit, because this is where it gets really good. So Chosen, he was going around the town looking for the students because they're underage, they're teenagers, they shouldn't be out past a certain time. Miss Kim, Sensei Kim, she's also out looking for her Cobra Kai students. The two of them bump into each other at a club, and then he was like, what are you doing here just to make trouble for Miyagi-Do? He was like, then she was like, I'm looking for my students. And he was like, I'm looking for my students. And then she was like, well, then move, man, and get out of my way. So the two of them crossed paths. When it happened the first time, I was like, okay, that's a nice little interaction between two characters that don't have anything to do because this is a filler episode. When they bumped into each other for the second time, I said, nah, they're going to have sex. Like they're going to, because when Sensei Kim rolled up at another club, these two guys tried to holler at her. And then when she was just like, oh, if you want a piece of me, come and get it. And then that's when Chosen showed up and he was like, I will defend your honor. The two of them beat up the guys. Then they went to the Mexican restaurant. And then when they found out that all the kids had left the Mexican restaurant, they was like, oh, false alarm. He was like, oh, but you're still making trouble for Daniel's son. You'll kidnap him and put him in cage. And then she was like, I know nothing about this. And he was like, oh, but your Sensei Chris knows everything. And the two of them started bickering. Then they started making up and they had sex. So, like, they did it all night. It was on and on till the break of dawn. It was to the point where, because, like Sensei Kim, she always rocks like this big ass Bianca Belair ponytail. The next morning, when the two of them woke up from doing it on the beach and in the hotel and on the floor and everything, she had her hair out because the two of them were sitting at breakfast together with her hair out. And when she was sitting there with her hair out, I was like, damn. I was like, Chosen's the man. Chosen is the man. But then when they were having breakfast, the guy that kidnapped Daniel walked by. Long-haired guy with a Cobra Kai tattoo. So then he was like, oh, that's the man that kidnapped Daniel's son. And then she was like, I do not know this man. He was like, oh, but your Sensei Chris does. And then the two of them went and followed the guy. When they got to his hotel, Chosen had called Daniel and Kim had called Sensei Chris. So the four of them together, because he was like, I didn't have you kidnapped, LaRusso. But then now they're going to get to the bottom of it and find out what's really going on. They end up going all the way to the guy's hotel. I don't know how they got in his room. I don't know how they got into his penthouse. I don't know how they got into his room. They go into the guy's room, and then when they see the guy with the Cobra Kai tattoo, they then see Sensei Wolf. And then when when LaRusso ran up on him, he was like, "Sensei Wolf, why did you have me kidnapped?" And then you hear a voice say, "Because, because Johnny boy, every villain needs a good story, or like every story needs a good twist or something." And then we see Terry Silver sitting in the hot tub, and I was like, "Oh shit." Motherfucking Terry Silver. They done brought back Terry Silver after getting his ass whooped by LaRusso. They done brought back Terry Silver. Terry Silver is in the house. Apparently, he's the one that's running things in the Eagle Claw dojo, like the Silver Dragon dojo. He's apparently the head of that. My man chilling. Sensei Kreese is in this bitch. That's how the episode ended, with LaRusso, with Chosen, with Miss Kim sexy behind, and with Sensei Kreese. Everybody standing there with their mouths wide open, while my man Terry Silver laid back with his mind on his money and his money on his mind. That was how this episode ended, and thank you for tuning in. I'm down for this. I'm all the way down for this. Like, give me all Terry Silver. Terry Silver. I like Terry Silver as the villain, and again, and I said this in the last review, there was a reason why. I mean, I was wrong for the reason, but there was a reason why the Silver Dragons was brought in. They weren't brought in as some random dojo that's in the Sekai Taikai. It's Miyagi-Do, it's Cobra Kai, and then it's the Silver Dragon, because now we got LaRusso and Lawrence versus Kreese and Kim versus Terry Silver and Wolf. And I'm down for all of it. So share your questions, comments, or concerns about this particular episode of Cobra Kai, and let's continue talking about it. Do you like the romance between Chosen and Kim? I guess Chosen's not going to get back with his ex from Okinawa. I guess that's not going to be a thing now. What do you think about Terry Silver being back in the fold? My man TS back up in this bitch. And where we go from here as we continue with some more Cobra Kai. Check me out on social media, on X, on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, where you can leave your questions, comments, and concerns, because we got 2 more episodes to go for part 2 of Cobra Kai. And check out my Superman and Lois reviews, because we're still rolling on and on and on for some more goodness for television, movies, video games, anime, and everything in between. So until next time, guys, until we review episode 9 of Cobra Kai, let's get back in the gym and get out the club, because we're coming and we're out this bitch!